Emily, oh, Dr. Downing, you just look, I want to laugh when I say that, but and I don't want to be disrespectful, but you look like you're about 16. I'm going like, Dr. Downing. So, that's why I call you Emily. Oh my gosh, you look so young. Okay. Emily, this is Dr. Emily Downing, you guys, from Allina Healthcare. And we've had her on before. We talked about falling, and all of you were so interested in that. So today we're going to talk about urinary incontinence. And oh my gosh, Emily, well, welcome. You and I, we always have, once we connect, we always have so much fun, don't we?
Even in the process of trying to connect, we have fun, Jean.
I know it. Like I use the S word all the time. I use the shit word all the time. Okay. I have had a terrible time with the urinary thing. I mean, it's like comes and goes, but now it kind of comes all the time. I mean, it's like, what happens with that? I mean, I know the older you get, does it just get worse and worse? Like I have Depends, and everything, but I'm telling you, it's just not any fun. And I've had it for a long time, but it's getting worse. So after all, I am 82. So does it just keep getting worse, Emily?
Well, so usually there's like two main things that contribute to why your urinary incontinence or can't hold your pee any longer gets worse. And for a lot of women, right, the first one is you may have had some babies, and the babies come out and they weaken the whole system, and all the muscles down there get weaker, stretched out. And so you may have been having this issue, decades already. And now on top of that, the system between your brain and your bladder starts to break down a little bit. So, when you're learning how to potty train, right, you're building up your bladder has its own muscle that contracts based on when you got pee in there. And then when you're potty training, your brain develops a connection pathway to your bladder muscle that says when you can and cannot, when your bladder should or shouldn't pee. And as you get older, that connection between your brain and your bladder starts to get weak.
No. Yeah, the brain is weak. That's what happens. Okay, keep going.
But the good thing is that even though it's getting weaker, with training, you can start to take control of it better again. So you almost have to go back to kind of some of the basics from when you were a little kid and working on cognitively thinking about controlling your bladder more, kind of a cognitive behavioral therapy training. But that's not really intuitive to people, right? Because you've known how to control your bladder like that, right, for 80 plus years.
Right.
And so it's usually not the first thing people think about. The first thing people think about is running to the bathroom. You can see my dog running in the back of the screen here as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's, so, it might be really hard to get rid of the part where, you've had your bladder stretched out and stuff, or not your bladder stretched out, but all the muscles stretched out from having babies. You can certainly do things like the Kegel exercises that can help that. And then the second is this kind of brain bladder connection piece.
And how do you work on the brain bladder connection? Yeah.
So one of the ways to do that is to start going to the bathroom. Try to go to the bathroom on a schedule. So instead of going when you feel an urge to go, you say, I'm going to go at X time, because it's also counterintuitive to think about, right? You get a lot of maybe advice about trying to hold it and like when you have to go, not to go. But the opposite is also true of going when you maybe don't have to go, right? And your brain telling you your bladder, now I'm on the toilet, now I should pee. So putting yourself on a schedule can help. The other thing is trying when you have an urge, especially if it's, not a like extreme urge, to try to pause and wait and try to make the urge subside before you get up and scurry to the bathroom.
Wow.
So instead of saying, oh, I gotta run now. Stop, focus, think, right? Like, I'm not gonna go right now, and then I'm gonna walk slowly to the bathroom instead of scurrying to the bathroom on my timeline. So
Yeah.
your brain trying to take control again.
I have never heard that, Emily. That is just kind of amazing because that sounds like just a good brain exercise too. I mean, just because they say, our brains slow down when we get when we get older, which, I can verify that. But I yeah, the other day it happened to me and I was out and I had on some white pants and I thought, boy, I'm going to always have to wear a top that covers my bottom because I didn't know that it even happened, and it did, and it was just. And what's really funny is that when I was young, I remember being around old, because I go down to Florida and visit a friend of mine, and I was around all these older people, older being in their 80s, and I remember seeing women, these old ladies, with these stains, urine stains, and and all kinds of stuff like that. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can remember that as a young woman, seeing that, and I'm like, I get horrified. I was horrified the other day. I don't think it showed up, but I was horrified, and I thought, good heavens, why? What can we do? And, thank goodness we have Depends and stuff like that. But I don't like to wear those Depends because they're so thick and they pad the crotch area. And then, they show through your pant. They look just awful. I think there's some thinner ones out there maybe. But gosh, yeah, I guess we just have to just keep trying. But okay, so I have heard that there's a chair out there that you sit in that works that Kegel thing. Is there? Have you heard of that?
I've I have heard rumors about such a thing. I've never seen it or tried it, but Kegels are just it's something that just requires you to like think about doing it for like 2 minutes a day. It's really a pretty minor thing. It's one of
And
those
that's
things.
like, okay, so a Kegel is like holding that muscle down there, right? I mean, you can do
Yep.
it while you're sitting at a stoplight or something.
Yeah, and just like, count to three and then release, and it's that, yeah, it's those muscles of feeling like both peeing and pooping. So like that whole, if you kind of clench those muscles, that you would say, okay, I'm not gonna pee or poop right now. That would be doing a Kegel,
Hmm.
basically.
All right. So my question to you, my darling, is I always try to prove that you're never, that you're never too old, that you can always do anything, not anything, but within reason, that I just don't get into this whole old thing, age thing. Do you think, since you're a doctor and you know so much, that it is possible at this age, like in your 80s, to be able to still um, firm up that muscle down there with Kegels?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, I mean, it may not ever be exactly like it was, but certainly can it get stronger, and can it? Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that's good to know because I've heard that about your other muscles. When you get older, you still can build your muscles and you can still. So, I mean, that's good. Well, that is very exciting right there. That's worth this whole interview because I didn't think that would work. And when you start getting older. So, because yeah, like I say, it's just getting, I wonder if it'll just keep getting worse, like when I'm 95 or something.
Well, whatever you do now will help
Help
your
when
situation
I'm
when you're
95.
95. Yes. The one other thing I shouldn't fail to mention is bladder irritants. This is the worst one because you never want to like change what you eat or drink because of your peeing, because you probably like those things. But things like coffee and alcohol, and acidic beverages, are definitely triggers for the bladder to contract. And if you haven't noticed that, I'm not sure where you've been, but
Yeah, no, I
uh,
haven't noticed that, but no, okay, tell me what you're talking about, acidic beverages,
yeah.
like,
So both coffee and alcohol are acidic beverages. The other ones are juices, So orange juice, pineapple juice, even cranberry juice, which, a lot of people say, oh, you should drink that for your bladder. Well, it's actually a bladder irritant. It's not as bad as coffee or alcohol, but so
Okay.
especially, if you're having those issues at nighttime,
Okay.
eliminating, hopefully you're not drinking coffee after dinner time
No,
already,
no,
but
no.
alcohol at night, certainly in the evening, will certainly make that worse.
Okay. Emily, you have 5 more minutes. How much more do you have? How much more time? 6 minutes, 7 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Can we cover real quickly the fecal incontinence?
Sure.
That's something that a lot of women do not know about. And my doctor, I did a little episode on a little, thing on it not long ago with for aging but dangerous women. But my doctor says that is so, she really wants me to talk about it because she said women come in, they think they've got cancer, they think they're dying. It's just so shocking to them. Fecal incontinence. Now, I know there's other things, aren't there, that cause that, but that is an age thing too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually not that different than, when you
The
think about
urinary?
when you think
Okay.
about the causes. So just like the pee thing, having those babies coming out weakens that whole pelvic floor, and that also is part of the muscles that help you keep your poop in. So when you get weak down there, both unfortunately both are usually somewhat affected. So and there's the same connection between your brain and your bowels as there is similar connection as with your bladder. So those can both be worked on in the same way, with doing the Kegels, and the same thing about trying to, which is, this one's harder, but for the pooping, trying to get yourself on a schedule where after a meal, you say, this is going to be my time, after breakfast, or okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom and intentionally try to train myself that this is my primary time for having a bowel movement.
Excuse me, go ahead.
Oh, and then I was just going to comment on one other thing that significantly contributes for a lot of people, which is stool consistency. So if you're having looser stools, it's going to be a lot harder. And so there's some things I can talk about that too, to try to help with that.
Well, so that is, but are there other causes for that besides just an age thing? I mean, there could be something going on there.
Yeah, if you're having like lots of diarrhea, that can be a symptom of something else. Very rarely is fecal incontinence it's not a symptom of cancer. That's really rare. I mean, there would be a very rare circumstance that there are all sorts of weird cancers, but
Yeah.
that is not a common symptom of a cancer. It would more be things that are contributing to diarrhea or lots of loose stools.
Okay.
That could be going on.
So to me, I know we're really getting a little gross here, but fecal, but that's what life gets like sometimes.
Hey, we're human, right, Jean? That's part of being human.
Yeah, and we got to talk to all these aging women that think they're getting too old. Okay, so to me, fecal incontinence is more of a thicker bowel, and not so much the diarrhea, but a thicker one that comes out. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, so fecal incontinence is really pooping when you don't want to in a place you don't want to, right? So poop just like urinary incontinence, right? So it's coming out when you don't want it to, and you can't control it when it's coming out.
Do you think stress has anything to do with that? The fecal?
Certainly, yes. I mean, certainly that could be there. I think that certainly would make it worse. But yeah, it's independent of what your stool consistency is. Incontinence, you can have incontinence with very firm stools. You can have incontinence with loose stools.
Oh, okay.
It just means you're going when and where you don't want to.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was including diarrhea in that. So, okay. Well, it's a very real thing and it's disturbing and but it's another one of those things, Emily, that we just have to deal with and move on. And you know, my
Yeah,
doctor,
and there are things you can do to help that. So, and don't
like
be
what?
afraid.
Like what?
Well, so the things that I was just mentioning around
Yeah.
urge control, trying to reconnect how you control when you poop to your brain again. Um, and then also, depending on your issues with consistency, having the right amount of fiber in your diet. Um, those are, and Kegels. Those are all
Mhm.
things that are good for fecal incontinence as
Okay, well,
well.
that's
And
good
talk
to
to your doctor about it. Don't be afraid to.
Yeah, I know. Women just do not want to talk about that because one reason they're embarrassed and they don't know that much about it. And it's a new thing. And it's just not talked about. We sort of got the urinary incontinence sort of down, at least we've gotten that out there because I've been talking about that for 10 years on Aging But Dangerous. But so we've kind of gotten that out there, but now the fecal is another little mountain or hill, that we have to get out there and talk about because it's like you said, just so much like the urinary, it's very real. So, and so many women just do not know about it. And so that's that's why I like talking about those things because it is important. Is there medication you can take for the fecal to control
Depends
it?
on why you're having the problem with
Oh, okay.
incontinence. So it's definitely one of the things to talk to your doctor about,
Yeah.
and see if there is a medication that could be helpful.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it. Do you have any other wise advice, you little young thing?
I love your advice, which is don't be afraid to talk about stuff that's going
Yeah,
on with you.
I know. Uh, I'm Emily, it's so funny because I am writing a book and I'm talking about, okay, and I would like to put some things in there about some things. Some of these things and stuff, but I can't because I've got two teenage daughters or granddaughters, and I'm like, so my little one who's 15, Grandma, we told our teacher that you're writing a book, so it's going to be on one of our book lists for everybody to read. So I'm like, okay, honey, I'm going to try to not, talk about things that are like not good for a little girl. Well, I know I'll hear from all kinds of people now. They'll comment and go like, well, they need to know about it, and blah, 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 it's like all that stuff. So anyway, it's, we do need to talk about it. Women need to talk about all this stuff. So I'm glad you're around and I hope you and I get to still keep talking, even though we keep having these little glitches, which I know are my fault, Emily, and I'm so sorry. But
Well, we figured it out enough to do this 3 times, so I think we'll be able to figure it out for a 4th time. I don't know.
I know it. I know. Well, there's so much to talk about, there's just so much to talk about with you because you have so much knowledge and there's just so many things that women, that we need to discuss and get out there. So anyway, kisses and thank you for doing this. It's always so much fun. And that was really good advice. I feel much better because I didn't realize the Kegel thing would still work at this age. So I'm going to work on that. I think that's very important to know those things. So
Yeah,
thank you
you're
for
doing
that.
planks. You can do Kegels. Jeez.
Yeah, I can do it. I'm sitting here doing them right now. So that's good. All right. All right. So thank you. Thank you. And I'm sure that you and I will be talking again. We're just becoming best friends over all this stuff. So
I look forward to it, Jean.
I know it. Okay. Thanks a lot. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.